In this video, we are going to be talking about working with fractions when solving linear equations. All right, so in this video, we are going to be working with fractions, so bringing back some of that past knowledge on adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing fractions. So we have some examples. So this first example, we have x minus 2/3 equals 5/4. So again, just like any other problem, the first thing that we have is I'm trying to isolate this x. So I want to try to get x all by itself. Because this problem is going to be a little bit tougher than what number minus 2/3 equals 5/4. You probably do not know that number off the top of your head. So this is a great example of using our opposite operations to actually solve for this variable. So I have a minus 2/3 that I want to get rid of, so that means I'm going to be adding 2/3 on both sides. So over here, this is going to cancel. A negative 2/3 and a positive 2/3 would give you 0. But on the other side, let's change it into a format we're used to seeing. Instead of this vertical addition, we're used to seeing fractions being added or subtracted horizontally. So we have 5/4 plus 2/3. So what we want to do is we want to try to get a common denominator first. So some of you probably know the butterfly method. So what the butterfly method basically does is tells us, hey, all I have to do is multiply the opposite numerator with the opposite denominator, and same with the other side, and my new denominator is just going to be the two denominators multiplied together. So let's try to do that. So again, I'm going to multiply this 3 times this 5, which gives me 15, and this 4 times this 2, which gives me 8, and my common denominator is just going to be 4 times 3, which is 12. So now that I have a common denominator, I can actually go and add. So when you're adding fractions, remember you add the numerators and you keep the common denominator. So I'm really just going to be adding this 15 plus this 8. So those are the two things I'm going to be adding. So 15 plus 8 gives me 23, and I'm keeping my common denominator of 12. Now, if I could, I would try to simplify. 23 is a prime number though, so it will not be simplified at all. So the answer to the problem is 23 divided by 12 minus 2/3 is going to equal 5/4. So let's try the next problem. So we have 2/3 times x equals 4/5. So this time around, I'm not adding or subtracting, I'm being multiplied. So the opposite of multiplication is division. But the nice thing about fractions when it comes to multiplying or dividing, especially dividing, is if you divide a fraction, it's the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. And reciprocal just means you're just flipping the fraction. So instead of 2/3, I can multiply both sides by 3/2. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to multiply both sides by 3/2. I'm going to use a different color. Because again, I want to keep it balanced. So what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. And if your c over on this other side, this 3 divided by this 3 are going to cancel to be 1, and this 2 divided by this 2 are going to also cancel to be 1. So that's why we multiply by the reciprocal, because we're actually doing the division and multiplication steps in one take. So if you remember anything about multiplying with fractions, you're just going to be multiplying straight across. So I'm going to be multiplying this 4 times this 3, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to multiply this 5 and this 2 together. So this gives me x equals 4 times 3, which is 12, and 5 times 2 is 10. So on this problem, I can actually simplify this further. So both of these numbers are even. That 12 and that 10 are both even numbers, so I could take a 2 away from both of them. So 12 divided by 2 gives me 6, 10 divided by 2 gives me 5, so that's the simplified form. Another thing you could do is if you have trouble simplifying once you have already gotten your final answer, is actually simplify before you get your final answer. So I can actually come over here, so I'm going to rewrite it. So I'm over at 4 4/5 times 3/2. So I can simplify at this step. So I can actually come and I can say, hey, I see this 4 and this divided by 2. Well, I know what 4 divided by 2 is. 4 divided by 2 is just 2. So this is really a 2/5 times this 3, and that 2 basically disappeared. It became a 1. So then multiplying that straight across, 2 times 3 is 6, and 5 times 1 is, well, also 5. And I get the exact same answer. So where you simplify in a math problem does not matter. You just need to make sure that you do simplify. And a lot of calculators nowadays can also help you with simplifying, but you're just trying to find a common factor that is both in the numerator and the denominator. So I'll kind of rewrite this. So this 12 over 10, another way I could view this is actually just saying, hey, this is 2 times 6, and this is 2 times 5. And if you notice, here are my 2's that are going to cancel away. So that's basically what you're doing when you are simplifying a fraction. So I have 2 u tries for you to try. So we have a negative 4/5 plus x equals 3/8 and a 5/4 times x equals 1/6. So make sure that you simplify. So pause right now and then come back and check your answer. So on the first one, you should have gotten 47 over 40. And on the second one, you should have had 10/3. So again, if you did not get these, try to go back, see if you made any kind of mistake that you can notice, because the best way of learning is by looking and finding your own mistakes and growing from them. So take your time, try to figure out where you went wrong, and just keep practicing. You'll get there eventually.